Hello my friends and fellow travelers, my name is Pierce and welcome back to another travel guide here on Tales from the Road. About 3 years ago, I made my first travel guide on this channel, and it was a travel guide to Morocco. I had just lived in the north of Morocco for about 3 months in a city called Tangier, and I learned a lot and traveled to a lot of the country, and I was really ready to share my experiences. Since then, I've actually spent another 3 months in Morocco, this time living in Marrakech and traveling across the Sahara, across much of the southwestern part of the country, and now I think I'm geared up to give you the best, most holistic travel guide for Morocco that you're going to be able to find on YouTube. This is an amazing country with so much to do, and I know most people plan maybe between a 10 and 15-day trip in the country, so I hope this travel guide gives you a lot of different ideas on places you can visit, gives you the tools you need to get around the country safely and comfortably, and maybe you'll learn a little bit along the way. If that sounds good, let's talk about Morocco. As we always do with these videos, let's talk a little historical and geographic context so we get to know Morocco a little bit better before we go. To start off, where is Morocco? Morocco is in the very northwestern corner of Africa, bordering Algeria to the east and to the south, and then Mauritania to the south and to the west. Morocco has a lot of coastline. On the north, they border the Mediterranean Sea, then you got the Strait of Gibraltar across from Spain, and then you have the Atlantic Ocean, which is the rest of the western part of Morocco. When I think about the country of Morocco, I like to split it up into three sort of natural landscapes that you're gonna find on a trip there. Number one, you've got the coastal communities. Morocco is actually a lot greener than people give it credit for. They always imagine the desert, but along the coast, which is where the majority of the population of Morocco lives, you've got nice forests, lots of palm trees, lots of beautiful cities dotted with a lot of nature. Then, in the middle of the country, you get this large mountainous region. This is almost a natural buffer between the Sahara Desert and the coastal part of Morocco. The mountainous people have a very specific identity. It gets much colder there than it does in the rest of the country, and this is where a lot of the indigenous and tribal peoples of Morocco find themselves. And once you get past the mountains, the third region is really the desert, or the gateway to the Sahara, the world's largest hot desert. This is the region where you're gonna find the large sand dunes that you see in lots of pictures of Morocco, but a lot of the desert is also sort of flat, rocky, red sort of terrain that actually looks very similar to where I'm from in New Mexico. To give you a little historical overview, Morocco has always been a land of migration, sort of a gateway from sub-Saharan Africa to Europe, as well as from the generalized Middle East also connecting to Europe. Morocco is well known for having its indigenous communities, often called Amazigh or Tamazight people. You can think of these as the original peoples of Morocco. Many people around the world also call these people Berber. Some people within that community say that that's a pejorative. I've heard many people in that community call themselves Berbers. It's not for me to say what's the correct word. I typically say Amazigh just to stay on the safe side. They have a very spiritual connection to the desert and mountain places in Morocco, and they have their own language, especially if you go towards the south of the country in particular. Morocco today is an Arabic-speaking country, and that's due to the movement of people, trade, and migration from the Middle East, specifically from the Arabian Peninsula. The current king of Morocco, as well as the entire Alawite dynasty, which has ruled Morocco for hundreds of years, actually claims that they're direct descendants of the Prophet Muhammad from the Arabian Peninsula. That means modern Morocco is definitely a part of this MENA region, Middle East, North Africa, and has a lot of things in common with the greater Arabic-speaking world. Although that the Arabic dialect that they speak in Morocco called Darija is basically unintelligible to other Arabic speakers. The Darija that they speak in Morocco is actually a good example of the history of Morocco. Depending on the region of Morocco that you're in, whether it was colonized by the Spanish or the French, or if they have a high proportion of Amazigh or Berber people, the Darija, the Arabic dialect, is going to shift with the vocabulary a bit. That means on a trip to Morocco, you're gonna see a country that's really geographically diverse, linguistically diverse, has a distinct and diverse population as well, and has so many things to discover. It's a country with amazing things to do, and I can't wait to tell you about them in the practical section. So first up, we're gonna start with visas. And it's an easy question. How long can I stay in Morocco on my trip? As an American citizen, you can stay 90 days visa-free. All you need is a passport to enter. Next up, money. In Morocco, they use the Moroccan dirham, and the dirham normally trades about 9 dirham to $1. You can kind of like round it up to 10 when you're in the country. It just makes it easier to pay for things. People often ask me, should I bring cash when I travel to a foreign country? For me, I always like to keep some cash for an emergency, maybe $200 to $300, like maybe $100 bills, so you can exchange if you're in a tough situation. But for me, I typically use ATMs. The ATM fee in Morocco is normally between $2 and $3 to withdraw, and the limit on ATMs that I found was between 200 and 400 US dollars, depending on the bank. Morocco is definitely a cash-based society, so you might be able to get away with using your credit card at a nicer restaurant or at a hotel, but if you typically want to eat at a normal restaurant or maybe even go to a museum, they typically only accept cash, so you're going to want to have cash on hand during your trip at all times. For me, Morocco definitely leans inexpensive as far as travel destinations are concerned. Eating is pretty cheap in Morocco. You can normally get away with $5 to $10 per meal. Of course, if you want to spend more money on food, you definitely can, and there are fancy restaurants in all the major cities of Morocco, but if you want to eat like a local, it's never going to be terribly expensive. You can stay in a pretty decent hotel in most of the major cities for between $40 and $70 per night. If you're traveling in some of the more rural areas, especially along the Sahara, a lot of people like to do that, you can get away with guest houses that are between $15 and $20 for the room per night. The transportation in the cities is also on the cheap side. Taxis are definitely not going to break the bank. Buses are incredibly cheap, sometimes less than 50 cents per ride, depending on the city. Also, the historic centers or old cities in many cities around Morocco are also totally valid to just get around on foot. So taking all that into consideration, it's a perfect high-value, low-budget place that you can explore, eat, sleep in pretty nice places, and you're not going to break the bank doing it. All right, so since we just covered a little bit about how much transportation costs, let's talk about transportation, starting off with getting to Morocco. Flying to Morocco is going to depend on what your trip looks like, but points of entry could be Tangier in the north, Rabat or Casablanca in the middle of the country, Agadir or Marrakech towards the south, depending on really what you want to do. All of them have major airports. Casablanca is probably the best and well-connected airport because that's where Royal Air Maroc, the national airline of Morocco, is hubbed out of. There definitely are some flights from the US and Canada that go directly to Morocco via Royal Air Maroc or maybe a partner airline, but a lot of times you're going to stop in London, maybe you can stop in Barcelona or Madrid on your way south. Once you're in Morocco, you're probably going to want to see a couple different cities on your stay there. So you could take internal flights. That would work if you were in Tangier and you really wanted to see Marrakech because that's pretty far away. But there are, of course, cheaper options than flying. Number one is Morocco has something called the Al Borak, which is Africa's first high-speed railway. You can go from Tangier in the north to Casablanca in the center part of the country in just about 2 hours and 10 minutes. A conventional train would take about 5 hours. The cost is totally reasonable, only about $5 to $8 for a seat, depending on where you're going. And you can hit other cities along the Casablanca-Tangier route, like Rabat or Kenitra. You can definitely get to other cities in Morocco by train, like to Marrakech, like to Fez, but unfortunately they don't have the high-speed rail, so you're gonna have to take the conventional rail, which definitely takes a little bit more time. I've taken both the high-speed rail and the conventional rail in Morocco, and both experiences were great. The high-speed rail is very similar to what you would find in France or in Spain, you know, really nice, sleek trains that run on time and that work well. You also have the conventional rail, which is just an older school train. It's exactly what you'd imagine from an older school train, but they do have air conditioning, so it's totally reasonable. So if you don't want to fly and you don't want to take a train, you can always do buses, especially for shorter city-to-city transportation. The buses are really hit or miss, but there are a couple companies in Morocco that are quite quality. One is called Super Tours, one is called CTM. Both of them operate websites, which you can find in the description below, and they often don't take off from the central bus station. You could also just go to the central bus station of what city you're in and just see what buses are available. Some of them are really cheap because they're for the local Moroccans who are going to city. Just depends on how you like to travel. If you want to travel like a real Moroccan, you'll take something called a grand taxi, a big taxi. And so basically these are cars, sometimes maybe like little minivans, could be 10 seats to 6 seats to 4 seats. And they go city to city for a very cheap price. They're all at a large collective taxi stand where they have the intercity taxis and the city-to-city taxis. And you basically should get some sort of ticket, or you can just tell people where you're going. They'll tell you to sit there. When there's enough people in the taxi, they go. They stop for people along the way. It's pretty informal. And my first experience with a grand taxi is I actually was going, I think, to Tétouan, which is a city in the north from Tangier, so about 2-hour drive, and they just jammed 6 people into a sedan that's made for 4 people. and my buddy actually had to sit like on the side of, like we were sharing the front seat, me and my friend. It was just very ridiculous. So that's the way the Moroccans travel. If you don't want to do that, then definitely go for the normal buses. Trains are great, and if you don't have the time, flying from Marrakech to Tangier, Marrakech to Fez can save you a lot of time on a short trip, like a 10-day trip. All right, so what about staying connected when I go to Morocco? It's definitely a country where you're gonna wanna have internet connection because you might need to translate something, and you're probably gonna make sure you're not getting ripped off on some things, and you can always use ChatGPT to see how much stuff should cost, which is a definite good trick that you should do in any bazaar or any Medina in Morocco. You can choose between Morocco Telecom, Inouï, or Orange Maroc, which Orange is actually a French company. All three of these offer tourist SIM card packages. Basically you go, you can either do it in the airport, but it's more expensive in the airport, so I recommend doing it in the city. You give them your passport, a little bit of information, and then you give them cash normally. The eSIMs are more expensive than the traditional SIM cards. I was paying about $25 US for a month of unlimited gigabytes with Inouï. If you want a SIM card before you go, you can of course use my eSIM partner, Maya Mobile. Maya Mobile has eSIMs that you can buy online and preload on your phone, so when you arrive in Morocco, you're just ready to go, super easy. I have a link for you in the description. So now on to safety and security in Morocco. In my opinion, Morocco is generally pretty safe, but there are a lot of scams that are involved with your experience in Morocco, especially as a tourist, and there are some things that you need to watch out for. Secondarily, this is based on my experience as a large white guy traveling in Morocco. I always travel with my girlfriend. She says that walking around in many cities in Morocco can sometimes be uncomfortable, which is of course something that I wouldn't necessarily experience. So if you're a solo female traveler, I think you can definitely do Morocco, but because it is a conservative country and because a lot of spaces are filled with just like guys drinking coffee and staring at people, sometimes it can definitely be uncomfortable. I definitely don't disagree with that. What I can say is that the general vibe of a Moroccan city and traveling through it and feeling secure is that Moroccans are either really, really helpful and really, really nice, and there are plenty of people that will make sure that if someone's bothering you or following you or harassing you, that they'll call them out and publicly shame them. That being said, there are also plenty of people who are strange, who would be happy to pickpocket tourists or make you feel uncomfortable in some sort of way. These are also people who sometimes approach you when you're walking through an old city. The old cities have tight, narrow little alleyways. Sometimes your hotel isn't necessarily clear as to where it should be. Don't follow a guy down an alleyway. Typically, if someone just approaches you, just say no thank you and keep walking. If someone really gets in your face, try to look for other Moroccans and say like, this guy's bothering me, can you please tell him to go away? The best little trick that I've done in Morocco is just say that I'm from Romania. No one in Morocco speaks Romanian, but many Moroccans speak English, French, Spanish, German, Italian, because they have all these tourists coming from different places. If you say you speak a language that they don't know, sometimes they'll just leave you alone because they feel like they can't hassle money or something out of you. To go with that goes with the general scam culture that there is in Morocco. When you go into a Medina or an old city or a market, they're selling things. The whole city is a big place to sell stuff. And I have to say, they're not very upfront with the prices. Whatever they're offering you, whatever the starting price should be, probably the real price is half or a little bit less than half. And what they're buying it from is even less than that. So if you like to barter, it's fun. If you don't like to barter, it can be a little bit annoying and uncomfortable. If you feel that the price is wrong, don't buy it. If you feel that the person is being pushy, then just say, hey guy, relax, we're gonna take a minute, I'm gonna think about it, I'm gonna come back until I'm comfortable. So I know from a lot of Western cultures like Americans, French, Spanish, British, we're not so pushy on each other to make purchases like in person, and we don't guilt each other. But in a barter culture, it doesn't really matter where you're from. They use your emotions, they use sort of the physical space to get you to buy something. So my big recommendation is stay strong, stick to a price that you wanna pay, don't show them any cash. If you don't think it's a good deal, walk away. When you're walking away, they'll probably give you the best deal that you're probably gonna get for that specific item that you're looking for. Sometimes just walk away and wait for that good deal. That's also a good way. When you're in the really touristy centers, sometimes you'll see people offering like a monkey for you to touch or like some snakes for you to look at or whatever. Don't engage with those people. They're very sketchy. Sometimes it's run by sort of like little groups of mafia people, and they're gonna try to extort you for money, sort of, guilt you, intimidate you. Just don't engage with it. You know, if you want the picture with the monkey, get the picture with the monkey. I'm not gonna say don't do it, but get ready to pay like $10 to $15 or to have to back people off and say, hey, look, I'm gonna pay $2 for my monkey picture, like that's enough, go away. So it's a strong culture, Moroccan culture. They definitely know how to get money out of people. So you, in response to that, have to be strong yourself. And you can definitely do it, and I believe in you. If you're ever worried about getting pickpocketed or losing your things when you're traveling, I always recommend to buy something like this. It's what we would call like a banana bag. It can go across your chest so it doesn't look like a fanny pack. I'm not a big fanny pack guy. This is pretty good because it zips and it's right in front of you, so you can't get pickpocketed in that case. Someone theoretically could cut the back here, but I've never seen it. So also make sure when you're sitting down at a cafe, all this stuff, like don't leave your phone, don't leave your camera where it's disconnected from your body, just in case. Like this stuff happens in Paris all the time. It happens in Madrid all the time. It's just like, this is just typical traveler advice for you. So if that happens, like, you know, there's some simple precautions that you can take that can save you some hassle, some trouble, and some hardship on your trip for sure. That being said, when you're traveling, it's always good to travel with insurance. So I'm also partnered with a company called Safety-Wing. It's who I buy my digital nomad insurance from. But if you're going on a trip, they cover all of this stupid stuff. So I'm also dropping a link in the description. I recommend them, and I buy their product every month. They're not paying me for this video, but if I mention a company like Maya Mobile earlier, they do pay me affiliate. But it's good because they're actually products that I use when I travel, and I get a little money for helping you guys as well. So there you go. So let's dive into a new section I've never done, which is a little bit of culture and etiquette when you travel to Morocco. Starting with the language, as I said before, they speak Arabic, but a lot of Moroccans are bilingual or trilingual, depending on what city they're from. There's Spanish and English, French and English, and then Darija as their native language. If you go to the south, maybe Berber is their other language that they speak, plus English, probably plus French. It's a very multilingual country. So you're probably not going to learn any Darija. You probably can't read Arabic unless you're unless you're an Arabic-speaking traveler. So the good news is that French and Spanish is really widely spoken. So if you can learn a couple key words in French or Spanish before you go, that's super helpful, and most people will be able to help you during your trip. When meeting someone, buying food from someone, seeing someone in the Medina, you could of course say hello, bonjour, hola, but I would go for a salamu alaikum, something a little bit more Moroccan would feel good, a little bit more Arabic themed. And of course, when you're done buying something, a shukran goes a long way. People seem to like that. The one word I really like in Moroccan Arabic is bsaha, which basically is something like cheers or to life or to your health. That's always a nice thing to say, basically in any case where you want to wish someone good wishes. Sometimes people ask me about the dress code in Morocco, specifically for women, but for men too. Mosques, you generally cannot enter in Morocco, so don't worry about dressing appropriately to go into a mosque. The one mosque that you definitely can visit is in Casablanca. It's one of the biggest mosques in the world. It's super, super cool. If you're going to go in there, you're going to want to wear long pants and a normal shirt as a man. You're going to want to wear a veil if you're a woman, and then things that cover the majority of your body. I think sandals are okay, but you're probably going to take your shoes off when you enter regardless. I think the thing for women is that there's two sort of parts of Moroccan society. There's the Western influenced society where a lot of the younger people, they go study in France, they have family in Spain, they lived some time in Italy, and then they come back to Morocco. So those people are all used to sort of European Western standards for how to dress, how to sort of act in public. And then the rest of the people are pretty conservative. So it's an interesting mix because you'll also see plenty of Moroccan women sort of wearing like tight clothes or clothes that is like kind of more revealing than you would expect. It depends on the city. Some cities are more conservative, some cities are more liberal. It just really depends on the vibe. But in general, I'd like to say if you don't want to attract too much attention as a woman, don't wear a crop top, I think would be the main part. And then maybe wear a dress as opposed to a skirt, just to be sort of respectful. A lot of people are generally conservative in some sense. Definitely it's a very Islamic country. So the way I typically travel is whatever is the most respectful thing to do in a country is the best thing to do in a country, because you're a guest, it's their country, and if you're walking around like in a bikini in the middle of Marrakech, it's just rude. No one is necessarily going to throw something at you, but a lot of people will be judging you. And honestly, me as a tourist, I would also be judging you because you clearly didn't learn about the place that you're going. So have a little respect and, just dress appropriately, even if it's different than what you would do at home. It's always a good thought when you travel someplace. Okay, so now on to my favorite section, which of course is food. Morocco, first and foremost, is a regional food place. Every city you go, you're gonna find different variations of the same core dishes. But you are gonna find core dishes no matter where you go, to the desert, to the seaside, to the mountains, you're gonna find these major foods. So, first up, we've got couscous. Couscous is probably the world's most well-known Moroccan food. It's a little grain that they steam to fluffy delightfulness and then top with various different things depending on what region you're in. No matter what region you're in, the thing that's the most important to know about couscous is that it's a Friday occasion. Touristy restaurants all over Morocco are gonna serve couscous every day because tourists want to eat couscous, but the locals know that couscous is a dish that is best had after your Friday morning prayers. That means you're gonna find the best and freshest couscous handmade by the people who know how to make it best around Friday at noon. If you wanna go to a place that's regarded for their couscous, you're gonna have to go early because literally hundreds, if not thousands of people rush to every restaurant around the city to have the couscous. If you go to a place that has couscous and it's Friday at noon and there's nobody there, that means their couscous is probably trash. That being said, couscous is typically served up with steamed veg and some sort of meat. You get a little bowl of sauce on the side, which you pour over the top, and it's always served with liben. Liben is like basically a buttermilk drink that pairs really nicely with couscous. It's sour and tart, not salty like the Turkish version called ayran, and it's something that's quite addictive and that I love very much. Next up, you've got to try tagines. Tagines are basically these clay pots. They have the funny little hat, and you'll see them all over Morocco. The most typical tagine you're gonna find is chicken with olives and preserved lemon, or just a beef tagine, sometimes beef and prunes. Each region has their own tagine vibe, so you'll see in each city what the vibe is, but it's just a nice dish that you can sop up with some bread, perfect thing for lunch or for dinner. Order a Moroccan salad on the side of it, which is normally just onions, tomatoes, and cucumbers chopped up, and it's just the perfect way to eat. If you want to eat in the morning like Moroccans all over the country, Moroccans go for the soup. They either go for harira, which is a soup with a sort of tomato base with a lot of different legumes and other noodles inside of it. Very traditional, people love it. It's honestly not my favorite. I prefer bisada, which is a soup made from fava beans. You top it with some fresh olive oil and a little cumin. Whew, what a way to start the day. The best breakfast item I think you can get is msimen. It's a flat bread, super oily. They cover it with honey, sometimes chocolate, and specifically something called amlou, which is basically like almond butter paste with sugar. It's so good and so addictive. I would get one every morning. If you're looking at gaining like 5 to 10 pounds on a trip, that's the easiest way to do it. All right, lastly, if you like crispy stuff that has very interesting fillings, you've got to try briwat and pastilla. Briwat are kind of like Moroccan egg rolls is the best way I can describe it, but sometimes they come in little squares like this. It's a crispy phyllo exterior stuffed with chicken and pigeon more traditionally, spiced with really like sweet spices. You've got like a cinnamon, and then they top it with powdered sugar, so it really straddles the savory sweet thing. So good. Moroccan food does a lot of that interesting spice blend thing. Like you have to try things with Ras Al Hanout, and if you go to a spice market, you have to get it. It's basically the curry of Morocco. So they really like these sweet spices, these bold spices, lots of cumin, cinnamon, anise, lots of these flavors in a lot of the meat dishes, which you don't find necessarily everywhere in the world. Moroccan food is a lot of things, but it's not spicy, so don't worry about spicy food in Morocco. Okay, so now on to the last section. In this section, I'm not just gonna tell you the top things to do in Morocco. I think that's ridiculous. You can just ask ChatGPT, sure it'll tell you. You can just look on Google. What I'm going to tell you is I'm going to tell you the vibes that I've had in different cities and what I really enjoyed about the region and the place. So, starting from the north, going to the south, and then things that I have heard that are good that I personally haven't done. So, let's just do this in order. Starting with Tangier. Tangier is a very cool city. They have a beautiful view of the Straits of Gibraltar. On a clear day, you can even see Spain. They have a really beautiful white old city that they call the Casbah, an old castle. You can walk around. It's great for maybe a day or two. The rest of the city is a bit traditional in some sense, but they have that really cool, old, sort of mystical, French-influenced, artistic culture thing that's really nice. Used to be an international city. It's a very, very nice place to sort of get acquainted to Morocco. I also think it has some of the best mint tea in the whole country, so that's my opinion. Next to it is Tetuan. Tetuan is also a white city, very beautiful, very Spanish influenced. The whole city center is very Spanish. It's white and green versus Tangier, which is white and blue. Both of these are coastal cities, very traditional vibes when you get outside of the sort of touristy Casbah because they're not on the top of the tourist list. And I really appreciate this northern part of Morocco. If you go more east, you can go to a city called Oujda and Nador. They're both coastal cities. I haven't personally been, but I've heard really good things, and the vibe is going to be a little bit more traditional because not very many tourists go out that way. If you go a little bit more south, you can go to Chefchaouen, the Blue City. Touristy, yes, still really cool and authentic, kind of. I really enjoyed my time in Chefchaouen. It has the mountain vibe that you're definitely looking for, and it's a very particularly beautiful place. It is a bit touristy for my liking and feels like you're sort of walking in Disneyland in some sense, but there's definitely a lot to discover and perfect for a day if you have it. Next up, we've got Rabat. Rabat is the capital of Morocco. It's actually often missed, but really, really nice. They've got basically two cities. They've got Rabat and they've got Safi, with kind of a river in between them. Safi itself is very traditional, but Rabat has really cool stuff. They have the Kasbah, which is one of the best Kasbahs, the little old cities that I've personally seen in Morocco. They've got some really nice monuments, and then they have this big sort of strip with really cool colonial buildings. And to be fair, they have a lot of new infrastructure that was built by the Moroccan government, because obviously the Moroccan government is based out of Rabat. So don't sleep on Rabat. Really, really nice city as well. Moving east, we can look at Fez. Fez is a whole planet of things going on there. There's plenty of stuff to do in Fez. It's probably the most traditional and most intimidating of tourist cities in Morocco, just because the old city is really dense and the whole vibe is very old school. I really like Fez. It's just like another planet. You can see the tanneries, which are, you can see people like making leather the way they've made it for thousands of years. They got all these fancy doors, like madrasas, mosques, all these things. It's an amazing city, but it's definitely a little bit more old school, a little bit more hardcore. So if you're looking for an easy tourist destination, I wouldn't recommend Fez, but if you're looking for a place to sort of blow your mind with old medieval kingdom kind of old school life, Fez is the top in Morocco for me. Casablanca is the modern city in a lot of senses of Morocco. It's got a sort of LA vibe, coastal vibe. It has a Medina, but it's kind of sketchy, honestly. I didn't really enjoy it, and it's not very well kept. Casablanca is a place to stop for one day, walk around the old French city center, take a couple photos, and then go on to whatever the next place is that you are going to in Morocco. I went to a city called El Jadida, which is an old Portuguese holding of Morocco. They have a really beautiful UNESCO heritage old town that is definitely worth visiting. Really good seafood as well, and it's got that coastal vibe. So if you have a chance to go to El Jadida, it's good for a day trip, especially if you're in Casablanca. Next up, there's the big bad city of Marrakech. This is honestly probably the most touristy city in all of Africa. It's completely blown up within Europeans visiting it because it's an easy weekend trip. Marrakech is both like Disneyland and then very, very, very cool on the other hand. Like it's where the kingdom was built in some sense. It's ancient. It's an ancient city. And so Marrakech, the Medina, it's very touristy. There's a lot of stuff to buy. There's a lot of people hassling you. It's really well kept, and then they have a new city called Guéliz, which is, the nice restaurants, nice stuff. So it has sort of everything in that sense as a city. It's really the gateway to the Sahara. So if you plan on going to the Sahara, you're going to do Marrakech for at least 2 days. There's definitely enough to do with the museums, the palaces, the tombs. It's a really amazing place. If you're going to the Sahara, and I have an entire video about the Sahara, which I've linked in the description, you're going to go to Ouarzazate, and then you're going to head to maybe Merzouga, or you're going to go to Zagora to go do the Sahara thing, spend the night in the tents, do the whole thing. That area of Morocco is very beautiful. It's got the Bedouin vibe. It's got this nomadic vibe from people who have been going from Central Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, up to Morocco to trade goods, sort of like from old Timbuktu. Very, very cool, very beautiful. One of my favorite trips I've ever been on, renting a car, driving around. If you want to rent a car in Morocco, it's totally reasonable. It's not terribly expensive. I think I paid about like $20, $30 a day. And it was really safe to drive. They got a whole bunch of new roads. There's a lot of infrastructure built into it. And I think the whole goal with Morocco is you want to go to the places where the tourists haven't already found. So like if you're going to Merzouga is like where most people go to see the dunes. It's just sort of Disneyland-y. I always say this because I like to go to places that are a little bit more real. Merzouga, I'm sure, is a nice experience, but the whole like camel and tent thing, it's been done a million times. When the Chinese tour buses, the tour companies, the Italian tour companies are going there, that maybe you don't want to go there. So maybe go to Zagora instead. Zagora was really nice. It was a little bit more local. A traditional Berber guy to take you out into the desert in his 4x4 to stay at his family's, tent camp. Everything's kind of touristy, but there's like, do I want to be really touristy or do I want to be a little bit more local? So I always skew a little bit more local. Lastly, going down the coast, you can go to Essaouira, which is a beautiful city, a fortress. It's a very different vibe because it's really old school and on the coast. They've got that nice bar vibe, kind of like beachy kind of thing. It's also close to Tagazout where you can go surfing. There's a big expat surfer community. And you're not too far from Agadir, which is more down the coast, which is a big coastal city, but I don't think a lot of people actually go there. It's more like where you fly to then maybe go to Essaouira or something. So all those cities are worth visiting. They definitely have a lot to offer, and I think Morocco is like such a interesting place with so much variety that every city you go, like you have 10 days, you know, you do Fez, Tangier, Marrakech, or you do Casablanca, Tangier, Tetuan, like no matter what you do, you're gonna have a really unique experience. And it actually is a country that you wanna come back to multiple times because you probably aren't gonna be able to do Chefchaouen and Marrakech and the Sahara Desert and then go to the coast, the southern coast. It's just not gonna happen. So because it's a big country and it takes time to go from place to place. The last place that I want to shout out is Dakhla, which I've heard is a really beautiful resort town. So if you want to do something like Maldivian, something like chill by the coast, enjoy like the nice nature and the Sahara Desert, Dakhla is in the Western Sahara part of Morocco. Morocco claims this land. There's a whole other people called the Sahrawi that also claim this land. I don't want to get into it at all. It's a big discussion in Morocco. But anyways, Dakhla and that southern region is very cool, and it's starting to get really popular amongst Arab tourists, Moroccan tourists, and slowly amongst Europeans. So if you want to be one of the new founders of the sort of resort tourism, the sort of like Abu Dhabi vibe, you could go to Dakhla. I think that's also a good place to check out. I do know more about Morocco, of course, but if you're looking for an overview on YouTube, I don't think you're going to find anything better than this. So that being said, if you want to book a private consulting session with me, feel free to reach out to me via email. Liking and subscribing to the video is definitely helpful. I'm trying to build this out to the realest, biggest travel guide channel on YouTube. That's my goal, and I'm gonna make it happen. And having you guys along for the ride would be amazing. And with that, I wish you guys happy and safe travels in Morocco, and I will see you in the next one.